Following the investigation in New Orleans, what more can be done to protect crowds from potential tragedy? KXAN investigators talk with lawmakers about legislating barriers to do just that.
And a new look from police on one of the people tied to the shooting at a local mall, how you can help find them.
This weekend, we go from 70 Sunday afternoon to below freezing Monday morning. We'll track the cold, how many nights get below freezing, and the potential for wintry weather.
He told me he was on Bourbon Street, and we wished each other a happy new year, told each other that we love each other.
Jacqueline Kennedy says those were the last words she said to her brother, 63-year-old Terrence Kennedy, hours before a Houston man drove a truck through a crowded Bourbon Street. There's going to be a vigil for the 14 victims tomorrow in the French Quarter. Today, the governor of Louisiana declared a mourning period for the victims starting Monday.
Now, each victim will have their own day of remembrance. For Kennedy's family, they're leaning on each other and remembering the good times.
He had his own way, you know, being comical, you know, but he was such a loving and kind. You could get him to do anything, you know, and I'm going to miss my brother.
The FBI says Army veteran Shamsuddin Jabbar left bomb-making materials at the New Orleans rental home he was staying in. Investigators say before the attack, Jabbar set the home on fire to destroy evidence. The White House says President Joe Biden and the First Lady plan to visit New Orleans on Monday to grieve with the families and community members. The president has also ordered an accelerated investigation into the attack. And New Orleans officials say the city failed to deploy anti-vehicle barriers, including bollards. Yesterday, officials say the barriers had recently been removed because they were malfunctioning and needed to be replaced.
2 days after the attack in New Orleans, the national conversation has turned to a topic we've investigated for nearly a year: vehicle safety barriers and how effective they can be at stopping speeding vehicles.
Tonight, KXAN investigator Matt Grant is asking one local congressman what can be done to keep communities safe.
One of the issues, Matt, that you've done such a good job of raising is this whole question of safety bollards.
Texas Congressman Lloyd Doggett calling for more bollards amid renewed security concerns and questions over the effectiveness of a 2021 federal measure meant in part to fund safety barriers to prevent pedestrian injuries and acts of terrorism for state departments of transportation and local governments. Is this something that you think should be revisited and looked at again to make sure it's being funded and that cities that want this money have access to it?
I think the issue of safety and the need for barriers to protect pedestrians is serious enough that we should revisit the act and the issue and see if there are other things that can be done.
For half a year, Doggett has called on the General Services Administration to conduct an expedited review of all federally owned and leased buildings in the southwestern U.S., including New Orleans, to see if bollards should be installed. It's a response to last year's deadly crash at an Austin hospital and our reporting revealing more than 400 similar incidents at medical facilities over the past decade across the country. A week ago, Doggett renewed that request, citing KXAN's extensive work to uncover the magnitude of this issue, adding, given the increased number of deaths and injuries from a lack of safety bollards, GSA should act promptly. In his letter, Doggett cited an incident days before Christmas when a man running from police drove into a mall in Killeen, running over 4 people.
One of them was a little girl. I don't know if she got hit, but when I saw her, there was blood.
The federal government is just sort of getting to the point where it's going to start thinking about how do we invest so that local communities can be protected.
Rob Ryder is co-founder of the Storefront Safety Council, which has tracked 30,000 vehicle-into-building crashes over the past decade. He says cities need to invest in safety, especially places that attract large crowds.
Anybody that has a venue like that hasn't had a serious incident has either been planning and executing well, or they've just been lucky.
A decade ago, 4 people died in downtown Austin when a man drove into a crowd during the South by Southwest Festival. Austin City Council member Zoe Kadri is now looking into a downtown bollard requirement following our investigation, telling us the tragedy in New Orleans underscores the need for our city to remain dedicated to safe streets and public spaces. I'm committed to exploring with staff enhanced safety treatments for major street closures downtown, along with anything applicable to our city that investigations in New Orleans may reveal. In October, Kadri's staff contacted Ryder for input into an entertainment district bollard requirement, saying there have been quite a few incidents of pedestrians being hit within this area, especially during large-scale events.
I would think the city needs to look closely at what happened in New Orleans to ensure we never have something like that happen in Austin.
Austin's Transportation and Public Works departments have now confirmed crash-rated bollards are being explored for the Congress Avenue redesign project. On the federal side, Doggett wants the GSA to examine at least 3 of 10 government buildings in Austin we previously visited and found potential vulnerabilities, including the Social Security Administration building and an IRS office. In Austin, Matt Grant, KXAN investigates.
The GSA has so far not committed to an expedited building review. A spokesperson with the agency, which oversees federal facilities, received Doggett's letter and is, quote, reviewing its content and working on a response to this important matter. Doggett says that 2021 law, the Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act, authorized $25 million over 5 years for state and local bollard grants, but is yet to be funded.
Las Vegas police say the decorated Army veteran found dead inside a charred Cybertruck may have been suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. They also revealed new insight into a potential motive. Investigators say Matthew Livelsberger blew up the truck at the entrance to the Trump International Hotel on New Year's Day. Investigators recovered data from one of his 2 phones, and they found notes in an app in which he called the U.S. government's leadership weak. Authorities say he did not criticize President-elect Donald Trump directly and believe that he did act alone with no connections to any terrorist group.
Some neighbors in Dripping Springs are being told to boil their water after a domestic wastewater spill this morning. Private drinking wells within a half mile of the Hayes Street lift station may be affected. We do have a map now showing you the area the city is referencing. It says more than 83,000 gallons of untreated wastewater spilled at the Hayes Street lift station. The spill was discovered at 7 this morning, and according to the city, crews stopped the spill and the pump is back in service. The city says people using private drinking water supply wells within the half-mile area should boil their water, and people with private water wells should also have their well water tested as well as disinfected. The city urges people that if they came in contact with the waste material to bathe and then wash their clothes as soon as possible. For another look at the spill notice, just go to the homepage of KXAN.com.
Okay, temperatures outside right now, not that cold, actually. We're all in the 50s. And then our eastern counties, low 60s. So it's not cold, and it's not going to get much colder because we've got a lot of clouds over us now, and these clouds continue to thicken up. Of course, it was cloudy most of today and most of yesterday. There's even some areas of fog developing. Visibility in Georgetown down to 1.33 miles. Visibility in Llano now less than 1/4 mile. So some locally dense fog starting to show up, and I think that's a preview of what many of us will start with tomorrow morning. So cloudy with some areas of fog and even drizzle overnight, as overnight lows in Austin drop down to 56. That's just a few degrees cooler than we are now, so not much of a temperature drop coming. We've got 70s for highs both days of the weekend, but don't let that fool you. A huge temperature drop comes in during the second half of Sunday. We'll time that out, show you the cold and the potential for some wintry precipitation next week.
All right, Nick, thank you very much. Today, Austin police shared this video of the suspect they're looking for in connection to yesterday's shooting inside of Lakeline Mall. Police say it started as an argument between 2 groups of people near the food court. They say one of the victims took themselves to the hospital after leaving the scene. They are expected to be okay. As police work to make an arrest, we had some lingering questions. The primary one, are guns allowed inside the mall? A firearms law expert says you can carry a gun inside of a mall unless a sign like this is displayed. You also have to meet other minimum requirements like being at least 21 and not having any felony convictions. And while we didn't see a Texas Penal Code sign today at Lakeline Mall, we did see this, the mall's code of conduct that states no weapons are allowed.
Does that hold any legal value?
No, it does not. The statute is pretty clear. You have to use their language or substantively similar language.
Now, APD says Lakeline Mall initiated its own lockdown procedure when the shots rang out. A mall spokesperson would not elaborate on what that procedure is, but said safety and security is a top priority, and the mall works closely with local law enforcement.
A week from today, President-elect Donald Trump will learn his fate on the felony charges in his hush money case. Judge Juan Merchan announced sentencing for next Friday, but in the written decision, he signaled Trump will receive what's known as a conditional charge, in which a case is closed without jail time, a fine, or probation. This will happen a little over a week before the president-elect is sworn in.
Services begin tomorrow for former President Jimmy Carter. Carter died at the age of 100 this past weekend. The Secret Service will lead a motorcade through Carter's hometown of Plains, Georgia, before heading to Atlanta. Carter's remains will then lie in repose at the Carter Presidential Library until Tuesday, and then he will then travel to the U.S. Capitol for the honor of lying in state. A national funeral service in Washington will happen next Thursday, the 9th. The city of Lockhart, long known as the barbecue capital of Texas, has now added another title as a music-friendly Texas certified community.
And KXAN's Sarah Alshay explains what that means and why more musicians migrate there.
Lockhart, typically recognized for its taste in food, now recognized for its taste in music. On Friday, the Texas Music Office designated the city as a music-friendly Texas certified community.
Here we are at the square, surrounded by all these venues that do host live music. It's not just your typical indie folk music that you're going to find here in Lockhart. Lockhart is actually very diverse. Sometimes I'll be walking down the street and I hear Tejano music. With this recognition, I think we'll have a lot of people coming into Lockhart and just checking out what we have here, which is really exciting.
Some of the musicians here aren't Lockhart natives, but instead moved to the area.
What drove people, especially musicians and different types of artists, to come down to Lockhart is our affordability.
Musicians like Stephen Collins.
By the water. I've been here in Lockhart since 2007. I had my studio up the road, but I was looking to get closer to Austin. And even at that time, Austin was starting to become pretty expensive.
Collins says over the past 3 to 5 years, he's seen more artists migrate to the area, creating a city of many sounds coming together.
When musicians gather because of affordability or a place to live that they can create without a lot of overhead, then you get a synergy that happens when they start to work together. That's exciting because you can find a sound out of that.
Sarah Alshay, KXAN News.
And Lockhart is now the 72nd city in the state to receive this recognition from the Texas Music Office. According to the state, the Texas music industry accounts for more than 192,000 direct and indirect jobs and generates more than $26 billion in annual economic activity statewide. Going in depth, according to the Austin Board of Realtors, as of November 2024, the median sales price for a home in Austin was more than $573,000. In Caldwell County, well, that was at $286,000.
Austin's professional bull riding team, the Austin Gamblers, helped mark the start of today's trading by ringing the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. The team is celebrating their 2024 PBR World Championship. Stocks closed higher today. The S&P 500 rose nearly 1.3%, while the Dow Jones gained nearly 1%.
All right, Nick joining us now as we look ahead to the weekend and look ahead to some changes.
Yeah, good to get stuff done over the weekend that you may not want to do out in the cold next week. There's still going to be time to do things next week, but you'll be bundling up while you do it. Outside right now, a lot of clouds, and that's it. There will likely be some drizzle that develops and even a couple of spotty showers during the day here tomorrow. Widespread clouds, fog, drizzle, and some of those sprinkles or light raindrops here during the morning. It'll be few and far between as far as actual showers go, but I think more of us will feel the drizzle and the fog. But I do think we see a bit more sun tomorrow afternoon than what we saw today and what we saw here yesterday. Still a mostly cloudy day overall, though. Then the clouds thicken up again Saturday night into Sunday morning, especially for the metro and our eastern counties, where there's even a chance for a spotty morning shower. Generally for our eastern counties here Sunday morning. What's going to happen first is drier air pushes out the clouds and the rain. by, say, late morning and midday. Then the colder air comes in after that. So there will be a delay between the clearing and the temperature drop. That's going to give us sunshine and warmth before it happens. And then the rest of your Sunday, say late Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, it's going to turn much colder. That colder air coming from this cold front working through the western states. Before the cold front gets here, it's going to be pretty warm here tomorrow. Starting in the upper 50s in Austin at 7, rising into the low 70s in the afternoon, and then not cooling off a whole lot Sunday morning. Upper 60s for morning lows. And then watch out, here comes that front. It'll be north of us at midday, so we'll head for the low to even mid-70s in Austin, although parts of the hill country will start feeling the cool down already late morning or noon on Sunday. And then that front blows through the area during the afternoon and evening, knocking us down to freezing Monday morning. In fact, most of Texas will begin Monday morning below freezing. We think temperatures get down to 30 Monday morning in Austin, widespread 20s, even mid-20s in the hill country Monday morning. So this will be our coldest morning of the season easily, and sub-freezing temperatures in our eastern counties as well. Before we get there, we've got a warm weekend, 73 Saturday, mostly cloudy with that tiny little shower chance, and then just a little bit of early morning cloudiness on Sunday and that tiny shower chance before the sun is out, with those highs of 72 before the temperatures drop here later in the day. And I mean a huge temperature drop from the 70s for 2 days in a row to the 40s for at least 5 days in a row. But at least we get above freezing during the days here next week. Our nights get below freezing though every single night beginning Monday morning through the following mornings for the rest of the week. Now here's the thing, the cold air will be in place, especially during the late nights and early mornings. We may also get some precipitation during that Wednesday through Friday period too, especially Thursday. That's the highest chances of precipitation. Now depending on the time the precipitation falls, it could fall as rain if it comes during the middle of the day when the temperatures are warmer, or it could come down to some sleet, snow, or even freezing rain if it falls during the night or early mornings. So we can't get more specific than that just yet until our higher resolution computer models come in. You can count on it being cold next week. We certainly want to have our guard up, though, for the potential for wintry precipitation. We'll be updating you all weekend long.
This is KXAN Sports, brought to you by Thomas J. Henry.
Hi, good evening. Quarterback's always a storyline in games, and this Cotton Bowl matchup no different. Will Howard, the former K-State quarterback, now leads the Buckeyes. Of course, he lost a thriller to Texas last year in Austin in overtime. Quinn Ewers, well, of course, he is trying to get Texas one step further than last year and play for a national title. For Ewers, kind of going back home. He's from South Lake, went to South Lake Carroll, didn't play his senior year. He graduated early, went to Ohio State, but Ryan Day wanted him when he was just a little kid.
Well, he was one of the first 8th graders that I ever offered. He was in our camp here in the Woody, and I saw a young, he was a boy at the time, really, who just had a tremendous release. And I remember grabbing him and grabbing his dad and said, man, you got a bright future ahead of you. I don't know if this is good or bad, but we're going to offer you a scholarship to Ohio State even in 8th grade. And again, I don't know if that's legal or not, but we did.
When he went to Ohio State early on, he should have still been a senior in high school, you know, and when we got him back, you know, he was still, in our eyes, a freshman at that time. And so there's been a lot of development, I would say physical development, but I would also probably say mental and emotional development to look into the face of adversity and come out on the other side of it time and time again, whether it be injuries, whatever that looks like, to be at his best when his best was needed. You know, similar to the Peach Bowl there at the end of the game and in overtime.
Don't forget Texas Game Day Friday, 5:30 over on KBVA, 1 hour before the kickoff in Arlington. In Dallas today, G.J. Kinney and Texas State. Second straight year in a bowl game, second straight first responder bowl. That's North Texas quarterback Drew Mastemaker. He's from Vandergrift High School. He never started at quarterback at Vandergrift High School, but you wouldn't have known it, replacing Chandler Rogers, who transferred. That's a touchdown to his old Vandergrift teammate, Miles Coleman. Mastemaker throws for 393 yards. This was a wild one. Mastemaker's 18. Jordan McLeod's 25 in his 7th year, and he throws it to Jaden Williams for the touchdown. Big game for Williams, but this was the nail for Texas State. Lincoln Perry rushes for 146 yards, And the Bobcats have back-to-back 8-win seasons, and they've got back-to-back First Responder Bowl championships. It all starts tomorrow. Texas men at A&M. Last time they played there, 2012, last year that the Aggies were in the Big 12 Conference. Texas won that game. They'll be there tomorrow night. And when Rodney Terry talks about opening up SEC play, sounds like what he used to say about opening Big 12 play.
You know we have arguably the best conference in all of college basketball with what we've done with our body of work outside of conference play as a conference. And there are going to be no nights off.
I understand what this game means to a lot of people, and I'm trying to make myself emotionally attached to this game as well. You know, I've seen other teams at Texas play against A&M this season. You know, I know it's going to be a really emotional and heated game. So I'm ready and excited for the opportunity.
They have played in some neutral site games since Texas A&M left the Big 12 Conference. For more sports, go to KXAN.com.